Best known for his role as Ruben Martinez on the Netflix series On My Block, today's guest is an actor, director, producer, and acting coach. Please welcome to the Zoom, Eric Neil Gutierrez. Hello.
Hey, what's up?
How's it going?
Good, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for doing this.
Of course, my pleasure. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. So we always start behind the resume by talking about how we met. And we met in the thick of the pandemic through the wonderful Amber Horn. I was
Yes,
in a class of hers at the time, and she brought you in as a guest.
she did.
And I just remember I enjoyed your class so much. And then you started doing a class for a few of the students in that class because we just loved you so much. So that's kind of how it happened.
Yeah. Yeah. I love Amber so much. She
Yeah.
is just a wonderful human being and a consummate professional and has one of the biggest hearts of anyone I've ever met ever in my entire life.
Yeah.
She's a champion for actors and for artists and creators, and I can't sing her praises enough.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love her so much. She is just like a treasure of a human.
She really is. She
Yeah.
changed the way that I think of casting directors too.
Hmm.
You know?
Hmm. Yeah,
She's very, very special, and anyone who crosses paths with her in this industry or just in life is very lucky.
definitely. She's a real human being
Yes.
in this industry. People like Amber are a great example of people can do this with integrity and with
Mhm.
kindness
Yeah.
and still be professional and get the job done. She still operates with complete candor, but she is one of your biggest cheerleaders, and she will go to bat for you, and she will look out for things
Mhm.
that you're right for, you know?
Yeah. And
Yeah,
she is so generous.
really.
I don't know where I'd be without that class, and I
Same.
she's just and I'm sure there are so many people who she's had that level of an impact on too, you
Right.
know?
Right.
So let's just get right into it. Where are you from?
Cool. I'm from El Paso, Texas. I grew up with my mom and my stepfather for a while, and then that didn't work out with them. So really, my mom was kind of my mom and my dad. When I was in high school, my brother and sister were adopted, which was crazy because I was a sophomore, and I like showed up at the house one day after basketball practice, and there were like infants on the pool table, and all my family was there, and I knew that the process was happening, but I was so wrapped up in my own life as a teenager and
Right.
trying to get into college and all of that I was sort of on the outside of it. My mom was doing all this stuff to try to get these twins, and so I showed up one day and they were there. And then I have an
Wow.
older brother, and it was one of the best things that's ever happened. And it
Wow.
was my mom and I who were really taking care of them together.
Mm.
And I left for college on their third birthday, which was, bittersweet, but we've always remained close.
Wait, we need to backtrack. That's wild.
Yeah.
So when you were little, what were your interests and what were you like as a kid? And was acting ever an interest?
Yes. But it never seemed like something that I'd be able to do as a profession.
Mm.
I thought that I wanted to be a doctor,
Oh.
and I think that was ingrained in me. My mom is from 12 children,
Oh
and
my
ultimately
God.
15 because there were three more when my grandfather remarried after my grandmother passed away when my mom was 7. So she had
Wow.
12 children, and then her stepmom had three more. So she's from a family of 15 siblings,
Oh.
14, and then, 15 including her. And so they grew up very poor. She really wanted what was best for me. So being a doctor in her mind was, you know, a huge come up. And so that's what I thought I wanted to be. And then once I graduated from Northwestern, I had to be real with myself and, also with my mom. And I told her what I wanted to do. I said, I think I want to be an actor. And she was fully on board.
Oh
She was
wow.
like, look, I asked for 4 years at Northwestern for you to study, pre-med and do all that
Wait, so
stuff
you
in
were
flight
pre-med in
school.
college?
Yes. And so I did
Wow.
all that, and I was applying to med school and it just didn't feel right. And so I told her that I was going to make the switch, and then she was fully on board, which was awesome. Yeah, so that was pretty crazy. to like really study like science in college. And I did a couple plays for fun, and
Yeah.
I knew that the pool was there. And then after I graduated from Northwestern, then I did a couple plays in Chicago. I did a few plays out there.
Oh,
And
wait,
then
we need to go back. I need more details. Also, you are not the first person on Behind the Resume who was pre-med and then switched to this industry.
nice.
Interesting enough. As a kid, were you shy? Were you outgoing? Did you know you had this passion and this talent?
I was pretty shy when I was younger.
Mm.
And I credit my mom for mostly everything in my life, but she really pushed me to go beyond that. So when we would get to a restaurant, she would say, okay, you have to go and talk to the host
Mm-hmm.
and tell them how many are in our party and tell them what accommodations we need, all that kind of stuff. And I couldn't do it. I was just so shy. She would make me do that. There was a talent show for Earth Day in my elementary school when I was in fifth grade. And I was really into poetry, and I was a fairly popular kid. I had friends, total dork, but like people liked me.
Mhm.
And I was very much to myself. I didn't play sports really as a kid. I was sensitive, playing with He-Mans and writing poetry. And so my mom said, you're into hip hop, which was new at the time. You're
Mhm.
into poetry. You should do an Earth Day rap. And so she actually helped me write it. And then I performed it at the talent show, and everyone went crazy. And from that moment on, I was like, this is pretty fun. So I started leaning into that, even though I was terribly shy, really sensitive mama's boy.
So
And
wait, what gave you the confidence to go up on that stage on Earth Day and perform?
I don't know, but once I was up there, I was so nervous, but once I was up there and got on stage, I was able to transform the nerves into a performance and
Uh-huh.
just go all the way with it. And there was something about that energy exchange with the audience that was
Yeah.
so infectious and invigorating. And I never felt more alive because I was such a shy kid.
How old were
And
you?
I don't know. I was really young in my class. Like at Northwestern, I was the youngest in my class at Northwestern.
Uh-huh.
And so I was a pretty young kid. I don't remember how old I was in the fifth grade, but I was
Okay, you're
young.
in fifth grade.
Yeah. From there, then I started doing other things. I did the Passion Play at my church, and I played Jesus Christ. And I like wore like a real crown of thorns, and my mom directed it, did all the costumes.
Oh my God,
Um,
amazing.
she was the leader of our youth group, and she was just really active, and she like pushed me to do it because she, saw something. And so that's kind of how I got the bug. I didn't really do anything in high school except for forensics. I did forensics, which was awesome,
Mhm.
which was I did humorous interpretation, dramatic interpretation, where you take like a 10-minute play and you play all the characters.
Wow.
So you have an eye line for a certain character and a body type and a voice. And then I would I would have one side of the conversation, and then you would snap to another body position and
Wow.
another focal point and another voice to play the other character. So you play all the characters. I went to state in Texas my senior year. I went to the Harvard National Tournament junior and senior year. My senior year, I got 7th place in dramatic interpretation, and I have this like Harvard plaque. So that was awesome. It was really cool. And then from there, I just got the bug
Yeah.
and did a couple things at Northwestern. Really thought I wanted to be a doctor. Realized I didn't, and then started doing
Well,
plays.
did you really, really think you wanted to be a doctor or
Yes, I
oh,
really did. I really
wow.
thought that that was the thing. And then once I checked in, once I graduated, I sat on a bench, and I remember I was just like sitting on a bench after my last final, and I was on the lake shore, sitting on a bench looking at Lake Michigan on the Northwestern campus, and I was just checking in with myself, and I realized that this is not what I wanted to do. And at that moment, I changed my mind and then started to go on the path of getting headshots and that
Oh,
grind.
wait. So you had this realization
Yeah.
after your last final
Yes.
of senior year.
Yes.
Did
Yeah.
it ever cross your mind throughout college or truly you were
No.
what?
No.
Wow.
And even then, I had the realization And I had no clue what to do. I had zero acting training. I just loved it. I enjoyed doing plays. And I
Uh-huh.
had friends who were in the theater program at Northwestern who were amazing actors. And so I leaned on them and I started getting guidance when it came to who to shoot my headshots with, what
Yeah.
agency to pursue, all of that. And then fast forward a little bit, I booked a national commercial for Best Western, which I still have the video, like the
Oh my,
VHS somewhere.
yeah.
And when I booked that, I got a little bit of money, like of it was for me at the time, it was this,
Yeah.
like landfall of money. And really not that much, but it was enough where I said, I'm gonna move to Los Angeles.
Okay, wait. We need to go back. There's too much in here. So growing up, it was always like theater and that live performance that gave you
Yeah.
that, thrill. When did TV and film? Because that's now you do that primarily, right? Is in the
Yeah.
TV and film world. So when did that kind of come into your life?
It wasn't until later. I really started in the theater.
Hmm.
I did several plays in Chicago. When I moved to LA, I really didn't know what I wanted to do, even though I moved out here
Hmm.
to maybe pursue acting. When I moved out here, I couldn't find a job at first, finally found a job. It was not a good job. It was a, grind it out, make no money job for a bit. Um, I was a food runner at PF Chang's in
Oh,
Sherman Oaks. And that was tough. It was grueling. You would carry these trays that were the size of like a door,
uh-huh.
and you would and they'd fill it with food, and you'd have to like carry it above your head, through like doorways, and then put it down on a tray and disperse to the customers. And then I fell in love with making music because I would do it for
Oh,
fun. So for a couple years, I would make beats and sell beats and work with hip hop artists. And I, you know, gave it a fair shake myself because I love to, do poetry and rap and stuff. It didn't work out, but it was really fun. And then I took a couple acting classes, and I was like, this is pretty cool. I think I might want to do this. And then once I did like a 2-year Meisner program. And
okay.
after I was done with that, I was all in.
Okay, wait. I still can't get over, like, I can picture you sitting on this bench after taking your last final and having this realization. So this was like a total just jump in the dark, like a
Yeah.
leap of faith.
Yeah. I knew nothing. I knew
What
nothing.
gave you the belief and strength and confidence that it was just going to work out?
I've always been really good at change
Mm,
and really good at diving into something that I know nothing about and really immersing myself in that. So that's always what I've done. And I've always trusted my gut with it. And I really trust myself implicitly. And I feel like I'm great with energy and I can trust where my heart wants to lead me.
mm.
And it's never failed me wrong. That's happened several times. Even when I moved out here and started to become an actor, I needed a job and I didn't want it to be serving tables. So I started doing therapy. I was a behavioral therapist for like 4.5 years. That's
What?
when I met my wife.
What?
Yeah. And
Oh my God.
and then from there, I, realized that I couldn't do acting and go to last minute auditions when I had therapy for children with special needs because the families really needed me and I couldn't cancel
Wait,
last
wait, wait, Eric. There is so much to this story. We need to go back. You moved to LA. And your mom, I'm sorry, there's just too much. So your mom is fully supportive.
Yes, on board, 100%.
How
Mhm.
did the behavioral therapy come about?
Well, I was broke, serving tables, and really disliking it. It was a grind, and I felt like I'd paid my dues. I did that for like 7 years out here.
7 years. And at
Mhm.
that point, did you have an agent? Like, were you auditioning?
No,
Wow.
no. It was still new to me.
Right.
And so I did music first, and
Right.
then from there I was like, this is not really working out for me. I don't know how to make money off of this. And I'm not the most musically talented. And while I made, some like interesting beats, it just didn't seem feasible. It wasn't a healthy lifestyle for me because I was making poor choices as I was doing that. And it just wasn't a healthy lifestyle. And I took an acting class on a whim because I just needed to shake things up for myself. And from there, I felt more alive than I had felt in many years. And so I started to lean into that as I was serving tables. And then at some point, I said, I can't do serving tables anymore. I've done it for 7 years. I bartended. I've done all that. It was also like a unhealthy nightlife lifestyle for me that I was really immersed in, that I realized was not serving me. And I
Mm.
felt the years ticking by and I was having a blast. I
Oh.
had a really great time
Uh-huh.
with, with a lot of amazing people, but I wasn't really getting anywhere. I wasn't fulfilling who I could be as a person, and I didn't feel like I had a purpose in this world. And,
Oh.
like I was just living paycheck to paycheck, party to party. I lived with 4 DJs for like 2 years at
Oh
one
my
point,
God.
and it was a party every night. I'm
Yeah.
talking to like 4 a.m. and then we'd sleep and I'd serve tables. I come back, another party. And it was just, it was fun, but it wasn't a healthy lifestyle for me. So I had to check myself. And
So you have
so,
a degree from Northwestern.
yes,
Did that ever help in getting some sort of part-time
it
job?
helped with the therapy, right? So
Oh, okay.
I saw an ad and I went to this agency and they staff behavioral therapists and they train. So I got trained for a few months and then they started to place me in homes where I worked with children with special needs. And so I learned on the job, I trained on the job, and then I got trainings in between, sessions. Um, and I got pretty good at it, but it was not fulfilling my artistic soul. And that's why I moved out here. I didn't move out here to become a therapist. And at one point, like after 4.5 years of doing it, I said to myself, okay, your intuition and the training that you're receiving will only take you so far right now. You have to either get more education on this and really get specialized and lean into school to be a better therapist, or you have to jump out of it. And so I chose
Oh.
photography. I said, I don't want to do this anymore. Let me buy a really good camera. Let me just start taking pictures because I realized how much I love it. Once I had a phone that could take photos, even like crappy ones, I fell in love with that. And I said, let me buy like a really great Canon and let's just see what happens. So I started taking like thousands of photos a
But
week.
all of this was still like a part-time job because the main dream is acting.
Yes. Yes.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it was all for that.
With the special needs work, did you have any interest in that prior?
Not really. I enjoyed working with children. So even when I was in college, I would do outreach work just to fill my soul there. I would go to, I think it was a hospital called, oh God, I can't think of it. It's been so long. Something Marymount.
Mm,
But it was abused children. And so I would go with this group and we would play with them and cook with them and just be good examples to these
beautiful.
kids who had experienced some pretty gnarly stuff. So I would do outreach and I really love children and I just wanted to like help children who either had special needs or were having a hard time. And I found that I was really good at it. And so when I needed something new, that's what I leaned into. The agency that I worked for at some point folded around the time that I was already inching out of there because the main director moved out of that position and started a private thing and asked if I would follow her. So I was already out the door when the owner of that company took the millions of dollars that they made with Wellspring and bounced. And so everyone else
No.
who was at the agency went to work and the doors were locked and everything was empty.
Oh
Yeah,
my
it
gosh.
was nuts. And so I got out just in time. I felt so bad for those families because, suddenly like all these people don't have services because the,
Right.
main guy
Yeah.
took all the money and fled the country.
Okay.
So, so I started working privately with my former boss at Wellspring, who started her own thing. And I started working with private clients who were a lot of industry people. And then I started working out of the preschool where one of my main clients worked. And then I started to work with other people in that preschool. That's where I met my wife. That's where my son goes now.
Oh
Which,
my gosh,
yeah,
no way.
yeah.
Okay, I'm just connecting the dots here. When you looking back at your time in college, did you ever feel like those 4 years could have been used towards your acting career and you wish, or no?
No, I really enjoyed my journey, and
Mm,
I'm glad everything happened when it did.
mm,
I thought that I would be famous by 30 or a lot more, successful with a lot more credits, a famous actor, all of that. And I'm glad everything happened the way it did because I feel like it allowed me, I was a very late bloomer. I really found who I was late. And I had a lot of growing up to do. And I feel like if I would have had success early, I would be a very different person.
mm,
And also, I have my wife, I have my 5-year-old son, and things just wouldn't have looked the way they are now. And I'm so fulfilled and happy. And
mm.
so I'm glad that everything happened the way it did.
Beautiful. Oh my gosh. I mean, if you hadn't had that experience at school and then, you listen to your intuition. Also, what's your cat's name? So cute in the back. I
Oh, Etta James.
James. If you hadn't listened to your intuition to move to LA and then find yourself doing, behavioral therapy and then you met your wife, like everything happens for a reason, even
Yeah.
if you cannot understand in the moment. And that is me saying because I need to hear that right now. How many years would you say the majority of your time was spent doing the side hustle jobs versus really having a full-time acting career?
It was a while. I'd say from the time I said, I want to do this, I want to pursue this, I want to take classes, I want to immerse myself in this as much as possible, I want to be an actor. It probably took a solid 8 years before I booked something that changed my financial life.
Mm.
And then from there, once I started working, once I booked that thing, then I was lucky enough that stuff just kept happening for me,
Was that
right?
on my block?
No. I started doing commercials.
Oh,
And so I
okay.
started doing national commercials. So I booked a 15-second
Mhm.
Fruit Loop spot that they just aired incessantly for like 2.5 years. And like I'd go to Target and I'd look at all the televisions and it would be playing on all the televisions at
Oh
once.
my gosh.
And, and I'd get calls and, emails from my old, friends from school and high school and college that I grew up with, my family, and they would see it all the time. And so that really changed my financial life, and it gave me freedom to be able to not feel so desperate coming into audition rooms and to really own my power and own my interpretation of what I was bringing to it. And it's really interesting because once you book a couple things, there's something energetically different about the way you approach an audition or a room. And at those, and like at those times, it wasn't self tapes. You would go into a room, and there's something about the presence of someone who's done it before, where they just get it energetically. And so I would just book a lot of stuff. So I booked a bunch of commercials, and I made my living off of that for years
Wow.
until 2 weeks after my son was born, when I had my meeting with Lauren Unerick, who's the writer creator of All My Block, and um, she hired me as the acting coach, which I was recommended to her by Amber Horn, of course.
Oh my gosh. Of
Yeah,
course, of course.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Wow. Okay, so your son is born. You have this amazing life-changing like dream come true meeting. Did you see yourself being an acting coach? Oh, also, can you explain what that means to be an acting coach on a set?
Yeah. So I started taking classes. I've taken classes everywhere, and I've had mostly good experiences. I won't talk about the bad experiences. I started taking classes at Anthony Mindel Actor Workshop,
Mm,
and I really liked it because it was, following impulse and, trusting your intuition. And so I would go somewhere else where it was more method and
mhm.
there was more of a technique. And then I would go to Anthony's to kind of throw it all away and trust the growth that I had at the other place. So
Yeah.
I'd go back and forth. And so I was at Anthony's for probably 4 or 5 years when he approached me about possibly teaching, and I expressed interest. And so they trained me very briefly, and I did a couple like practice classes, and they loved what they saw. So they started giving me classes. So I
Wow.
started doing that. And by the way, I joined the studio because of Amber Horn.
Oh, yeah.
So, like literally, I can like trace it all back to her.
How did you meet Amber?
So one of my friends, Chris Lowell, he's on like Glow and How I Met Your Father. We were in class together, and he had a gallery showing on Beverly Boulevard for his black and white photography. And my friend Katie Lotz dragged me there. I did not want to go. She like dragged me there. I didn't want to go out that night. She like came over and was like, "We're going." Made me get dressed. We like both went, and I met Amber Horn there just like on a whim. And we like started talking. We all were like hanging out all night. We like went, we had Mexican food. We went to like this, bar afterwards. And then from there, we just became like fast friends. And we've been friends ever since.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So it just happens that like I showed up to a thing that I did not want to go to.
Mm.
And I met the person who completely changed the trajectory of my life. So go to the things that you need to go to the events that you need to go to, even if you're feeling nervous or anxious, just go, because you just never know who you're going to meet or what's going to happen. And I wasn't trying to network. I just was there, and I wanted to see Chris's work and hang out with my friend. And we just happened to meet and like hit it off. And, she was so easy to talk to and so generous. I had no idea she was a casting director. It like didn't matter. It was just another person. And then, it like wasn't until later that, she's like, "What do you do?" I was like, "I'm an actor." I was like, "What do you do?" She's like, "I'm a casting director." I was like, "Cool." And then we just like stayed friends, for years. So yeah, so then I started taking classes at Anthony Mindel, and then I started teaching there. And then many years later, when Laura needed somebody to be the acting coach on set, because there were some actors who didn't have a bunch of experience on that show, and she like needed someone to, help guide them. We had that meeting, and we just hit it off.
Wow.
Yeah.
And On My Block it's a huge show on Netflix.
Yeah.
And then you're also on the show.
I am. I play Ruby's dad, Ruben Martinez.
What was that experience like? Was that a total like dream come true?
Oh, it was awesome. Yeah, it was so cool. So the first season, I was the acting coach, and I made some really good recommendations, and they started to trust me right away. And I just immersed myself in the job. My entire goal was to get on the same wavelength as the creators and writers. I just wanted to make sure that their vision was my vision, so we were on the same page. And so I leaned into the job, and we would do the table readings for the network. And so there were a lot of roles that were not cast yet. So they would be like, "Hey, can you be a utility reader and read all these roles?"
Oh,
So at the table reading, I would do like 7 different roles,
oh
and
wow.
they would be like, "You're killing it." And then after a while, Lauren's like, do you want to roll on the show?" I was like, "Yes." And this is also like a really good point that I think is helpful. I was very honest with her. So she approached me after like a few weeks of doing that job on season 1. And she said, "Hey, I think you're a great acting coach. And I think that you can work as an acting coach on set, like show after show. So if you want, I can recommend you to other showrunners that are doing Netflix shows. I can recommend you to Netflix." And
Yeah.
I said, "No, thank you." I said, "I don't really want to be like a lifetime set set coach. I would rather be an actor. Like, I'm out here to be an actor. Thank you. I am an acting coach on set for you because I believe in this story, and I read the pilot and I loved it so much I wept, because finally it was a show that showed how I was brought up. It showed a town like mine, like El Paso, Texas. It showed brown, Mexican, black kids as the leads, not the sidekicks. We were the smart ones. And it was such a groundbreaking thing that I needed to be involved in it, but it wasn't something, being an acting coach on set wasn't something that I wanted to do as a career.
Mm.
And so I told her, I was very honest. I said, thank you for the recommendation, but I'd rather you not recommend me for other shows because I want to be
Wow.
an actor. Had I not told her that, she would have not approached me a week later and said, do you want to role on this show? So I think knowing what you want and being candid about it, if I had been polite and said, oh, thank you so much, that would be great, and then left it at that, she would have recommended me only as an acting coach. But because I stated what I wanted, even though it was tough, I was so nervous. I was like, thank you, but no, thank you. I'm out here to be an actor. Then she said, oh, cool, good to know. And that was the end of that conversation. And then a week later, it was like, hey, we have a few roles that we want to cast. We think you'd be great in. She gave me a choice of a few. Ruby's dad was not included in the season at all in season 1. He
Mm.
was, he was talked about, but was never seen, was never heard from.
Mm.
And so she gave that as an option. And I thought to myself, I think the show's going to be a hit. I want to play the long game. Maybe they'll start writing.
Wow.
And so maybe they'll write for me if I do a good job. So I chose Ruby's dad. And then like a week later, she's like, I gave you a line in episode 7. I was like, oh my God, thank you.
Oh
And then
my
a couple weeks
gosh.
after that, she's like, I gave you a line in episode 9. And then a few weeks after that, it's like, I gave you a line in episode 10. So it was this slow, gradual thing. And then season 2, they wrote a little bit more for me, season 3, season 4.
Oh.
And now for Freeridge, hi, I'm back. So
Oh my gosh, amazing. So the characters that were the options for you, were they like co-stars that just wouldn't have a continuous story?
yeah, it was a few roles that were interesting, but seemed like they could be a one season thing.
Mm-hmm.
And this one, while, Ruben Martinez wasn't really present in the first season, I saw it as more of a long-term choice. And I took that risk, and I'm glad that I did, because now with the spinoff, he's back, which is so fun.
So I actually interviewed Kayla.
You did?
And oh my God, her story, she's
I love her.
incredible. She
I
is,
love her.
yeah,
She
she
is
is.
so talented and such a wonderful human being.
Mhm.
And she has the biggest heart.
I'm so excited for her and for you and for that show to come out. When did that spinoff, when did you hear about it? Like, when did you know that it was happening?
I heard about it when we were filming season 4 of On My Block.
Mhm.
And they were working on the pilot.
Mm.
And I remember they were like, hey, you have a line in the pilot. And I was like, that's what? I was like, that's so cool. That's so awesome. Thank you guys. And I thought that was it.
Mhm.
I thought it would be a line. And then, it like turned out to be a little bit more, which is cool. But yeah, I found out about that then, but it wasn't greenlit for a while because they didn't know what the interest would be.
Mhm.
They knew what the end of season 4 of On My Block would be, like, how the show would be wrapped up and the torch would be passed to the next generation. But they were waiting to see if it would actually happen. And I'm so glad it did, because I think Freeridge looks amazing. I am so excited for the world to see it. Geez, this is more than I talk ever.
So as an acting coach working with different actors, how do you approach the different actors? And also, when you were acting on the show, did you have to coach yourself?
That's still a conundrum. For season 1, it was really difficult because when I was in hair and makeup, I couldn't believe that I was there, because I got hired as the acting coach. And when I was a character on the show, I was in such disbelief, and I was so happy, but I couldn't take my acting coach hat off.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't focus on my character very much. And it all came so fast. And so I think my performance suffered. And so I was like, oh God, I was so embarrassed. Which is all good because it's a learning experience. And so I told myself, you have to learn from those experiences, right? And so I told myself that for season 2 and beyond, if we were lucky enough to continue after season 2, that once I was in hair and makeup, I would take the acting coach hat off and only focus on Ruben Sr. So once I was in hair and makeup, that was it. I was not going to do the other job. And I think that from there, it really helped me to ground myself into who this person was. As far as coaching the actors, the best thing that I did for myself was pay attention to how they learned,
Hmm.
because each actor learns differently and each actor needs a different thing. And so some of them just need to run lines incessantly. Some of them needed to go over what's happening in the story to really understand what choices to make in the moment, right? Because the story aspect of it wasn't necessarily clicking right away. Others wanted to play and improvise the whole scene before they shot it and try things and go to emotional places. So each actor had their approach to the work. And so it was really finding what benefits each one and then helping them lean into that, which is so fun, because it's like each person is a puzzle that you have to figure out what's the best way to help guide.
And you're also a producer. So for those
Yes.
who have absolutely no idea, can you just explain the role of a producer?
I'm a creative producer. So I was a co-producer on Boobitch, and I am a producer on Freeridge. Oh man. So it's a lot of things. It's what apron they're going to wear. We get a huge selection of, aprons from costumes, and then we all kind of vote. We get selects for auditions of certain characters. So I was highly involved with that in Boobitch and in Freeridge, which was so fun as an actor to see the casting process and then to be a part of that process.
Yeah.
So cool to help, select people, to go to bat for people. Um, it's really about the vision of the show collectively. So on the day, I'll check in with the actors in the morning and I'll make sure that they feel good about their lines. They feel good about what's happening in the story. They understand everything, anything that they might need in order for them to feel like they can be successful on the day. And then once that's done, once the check-in is done, then I go back with the producers and we'll all sit and we'll have a meeting about the day and the vision of the day. And we'll talk about things. We'll get emails like as we're sitting there in Video Village with, wardrobe options, car options, which ones we like the most. And we'll talk about that in the moment. And then once we're actually filming something, we'll all sit in Video Village with our headphones. We'll watch the take. We'll all talk about notes, maybe what an actor can do differently, maybe what they can lean into, maybe someone isn't understanding something in particular in that moment, and then helping them to understand that. So it is a collective of minds, and we all work together for the vision of the show that day. And then also, what is the arc of the episode so that we can track what that is? Because on that day, there might be a really emotional scene. And as an actor, we want to just like go full out. But if there's a more emotional moment later in the episode or later in the season that steps on that moment, if you go too big with it, then you really have to bring that moment down in order for the other moment to shine. So it's, really collaborating with everyone else to get the best, takes and performances and all of that on the day.
As an actor, that must be the best training.
It is incredible. And I love it so much. And it's cool to one day be a producer and then the next day I'm actually in the scene. I think now the directors are comfortable like giving me guidance and notes, but on my block, I don't know if they were like tentative to do it or whatever, but like I kind of wanted an acting coach for myself just to make sure that like I was doing a good job. And then they'd be like, good job. I'd be like, no, but I need guidance. I need more guidance. I need more, So
Yeah.
I would like turn into somewhat like insecure actor when I was in that role, and then back to producer or, like acting coach, and I'd be okay. But like Freeridge was the most fun for me as an actor because I did Ruben Sr. for 4 seasons. I felt very solid in who I was as this person. And so I had a lot more fun doing Freeridge because it took me 5 seasons essentially to like figure him out.
In your career thus far, have you ever had an audition experience that was so awful it like left a scar?
Luckily, no. I'm pretty good at leaving those behind me. There's something that I do symbolically that I started doing relatively early. This one actor who I respected very much he told me about this and I started doing it and it really helped me was when I was done with the audition, even I, and I do this now, even with self-tapes, is when I'm done with the audition, I throw the sides away.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a symbolic gesture for myself that it's finished.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to check my phone. I'm not going to check my email. I'm not going to check to see if my phone still works, waiting for that call back. Once I put that out there and I've done the work, I can put it behind me. Luckily, there wasn't any audition when we were in person that like scarred me so much that I wanted to quit or felt entirely disrespected where it, hurt my soul. There were acting classes like that.
Mm.
So I think it's really important that you protect yourself as an actor and you're able to audit and understand vibrationally if the place that you're auditing is right for you and
Yeah.
if the instructor is right for you. And if anything is amiss, then you have to trust your gut with it because we are so sensitive and we are vulnerable and we want guidance and we're open and we're opening ourselves up and we're vulnerable. And so we can take advantage of by, people who don't have our best intentions in mind. And I have experienced acting classes where something was off vibrationally. And luckily, like I stepped out of those and I found, amazing places.
Throughout your career, when maybe you're not working as consistently, or there's just kind of, you're in that moment of like, I don't know what's next, I don't know when it's coming.
Mm-hmm.
How do you maintain a balanced, happy life? How do you self-soothe? And how do you kind of get through those moments?
I lean into my family and friends. So when I'm on Freeridge, it's like 3.5 months, 4 months, including prep, of I'm a ghost.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see my family. I don't see my friends. I like rarely see them. I'm working crazy hours. And I'm also making money in the process, which is great because then I tend to pull from that a little bit when I'm balancing it. When I'm done with that show or with a show, I can't hop onto a new show. I can't have that kind of grind where I'm not seeing my family and friends. I need that in my life for a fully balanced life. And so once I'm done with a show like that and that type of grind, then I'll take a month or two off. I won't teach. I won't do anything. I'll go fly and I'll visit family in El Paso.
Mm-hmm.
I will go on a vacation with my wife and my son. I'll spend time with my mom and my sister. I will just lean into family as much as possible. And then from there, once I start teaching again and doing private coaching and my own classes, then that actually fills that artistic part of me again, because acting class is one of the most pure forms of acting because it's students who just want to be better.
Mm-hmm.
And there's that infectious energy of love and that want to improve. And I love it so much. And it fills my soul back up again. And so that's kind of how I balance it. And and I'm also juggling, family, and I'm auditioning also myself. And so it's just really juggling as much as you can and finding joy in the little things.
Mm-hmm.
It's like really important that I find joy in the smallest of things, even just, you know, playing ball with my son at the park that's, across the street for an hour and just really being present with him. And that fills me up again. When I see my friends, we have a game night and it fills our soul again. And then I can go back to work, and I'm writing a feature right now and stuff. So I'm like trying to keep myself busy as I'm doing it. I've like directed a couple small projects and I just want to keep my mind and my instrument as sharp as possible and also like learn other disciplines. So I directed a short recently that we're in the process of editing, and I'm trying to just learn as much as possible about the editing process and about cameras and about all of that stuff, just to keep my mind working until the next season so that I can utilize everything that I've learned and bring that to set.
Yeah. No, beautiful. I want to actually rephrase how I asked that question, because I think I said something like, how do you kind of like get through those moments? But I'm finding that the goal is to enjoy your life as much in those moments. It's not about getting through. It's about
Yeah,
how do you be as present and fulfilled in those moments when you're not at those highs. And personally, I've found that to be really, really, really challenging.
sure.
Like waking up and being like, okay, what do I have to do today to get me to where I want to go, which is great. And obviously
Yes.
you have to have that mindset. But I'm really struggling right now with like, while I am working towards my dreams, how do I enjoy this present day and be okay with where I'm at today?
I think it's about your process.
Mm.
I think you have to trust your process. And once you have fulfilled your goal for the day, you can trust that you've done your work.
Mm.
So for me, I get anxiety of, have I done enough today? Because I want to write my script all at once, and just
Yeah.
like have it done. And it's hard for me because I'm juggling so much, and I'm a dad and I'm a teacher, and I'm an editor right now
Yeah.
and doing all of these things. And so I give myself space of, I'm going to write for an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And I set a timer for myself. So it's about my process, and I'm not at all distracted for that hour. I throw my phone across the room. I've set a timer. It's going to go off when I'm ready. I'm not, going on Instagram and
Yeah.
stuff the way I can sometimes. And I have to mindfully be present for this thing. And then once I do that work and I do it as best I can with all the passion that I can, then I know that I've moved that project forward, and then I can just enjoy my day. And then I can get on Instagram if I want, and I can take a walk outside, and I can, really lean into my family. It's when I don't hold myself accountable to those moments where I've taken to carve out doing some work, that suddenly when I'm with my son, I'm like thinking about, oh man, like I should be doing other things, and I should be working, and I should be, thinking about that class that I'm, going to launch. And oh my gosh, I didn't do any writing today. And so that's when I start to get anxiety about the things that I haven't done to move my career forward.
Mm-hmm.
Once I get those things done, then I can rest until the next day on it and put it on the shelf, knowing that I've done my best with it.
Yeah. Have you been given advice that has really impacted or changed the way that you live your life?
Um, I wouldn't say advice. It's a lot of self-reflection and what works for me
Mm.
specifically. And I lean into the words of my family and the people that I love the most.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I will say that I saw the documentary Stutz. I'm not sure if you've seen it. It's the
Is that
Jonah.
what Jonah? Okay, that is so funny you say that. I went to the premiere last night for You People.
Okay.
He wasn't there, but I've been researching him today, and I literally right before we started talking, I added that to my watch list on Netflix. So
I'd
so excited
say
about that up.
that I watched it once.
Uh-huh.
I thought it was really beautiful. I watched it again, and I had a notebook in my lap, and I took notes.
Mm.
And there was something profound that happened for me. And I've done therapy, and I love therapy, and I'm a huge proponent of it. I haven't done it in a while. The therapists that I've had have been fine, but nothing that has drawn me back.
Yeah.
When I saw the approach of this particular therapist, it really resonated with me. And I will say that watching that documentary changed my life.
Wow. Oh
It
my God.
changed my approach to how I view myself.
I'm gonna watch it today.
And so you'll like understand after you see it, but I have a pyramid that I drew, and you'll know what that means, but I have the pyramid taped to my office.
Wow.
just as a reminder of some of the strategies that were used in that doc.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
You should like have your people contact Jonah Hill's people. I mean, even if he doesn't see it, like for him to be in that point to share so vulnerably, like especially on Netflix, and then
Yeah.
to know that people are that impacted, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, I loved it. It like literally changed my life, and it helped me to clarify a lot of things about myself and how I go about my day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Who are the biggest influences in your life and in your career? Who do you look up to the most?
My mom
Mm.
is my number one hero. She has supported me, and she has really allowed me to be the man that I ended up becoming.
Mm.
And she sacrificed, and she struggled, and she did the best she could to help me have this life. I owe her everything. There have been a few champions along the way. Rick Ferrari, who is my commercial agent, my like longtime commercial agent, was one of my first champions out here, Amber Horn, obviously, and Lauren Unerick. They've all gone to bat for me in a way that no one else has in my entire life. And so those are the people that I really look up to, especially right now, like Lauren, since I'm working so closely with her, seeing all the stuff that she does. She's a master at everything she does. And I consider her a mentor, and I'm trying to learn and absorb as much as I possibly can from her because she's brilliant at everything she does. And it's such a great example of how to master things and then keep pushing yourself in that direction. It's a never-ending learning process, and the work never stops. I never want to be like, I'm done.
Yeah.
Life is awesome now. Like I enjoy the work and I want to do the work, and so the work will never stop for me. It's a constant movement towards learning and growth.
Beautiful. What is your why for being an artist?
Because I must. I don't know. There's something that fills me up as a person that gives me meaning when I make the connection with someone else, when I watch something and I feel like it's made for me, when I listen to a piece of music and it like disarms my soul and I just start weeping with like certain songs because I can feel the pain and the passion in their voice or in the music or in the arrangement. And so I feel like without art, life would be pretty empty. And so I find fulfillment in it. And when I do it, and when I do it with other people, then it really gives me meaning.
If your 15-year-old self could see you now, what do you think he'd say?
He would freak out. He would not believe it, that I'm living in this beautiful home in Los Angeles, that I'm a producer and actor on a Netflix show, that I'm teaching amazing actors, that I'm doing this interview with you, and that I have this awesome cat. He'd be like, "Hey, cats now? What is your problem? Cat? A cat?" That I have a 5-year-old, all of that. It's such a fulfilling life that I could have never imagined when I was 15. And my 15-year-old self would have his jaw drop to the ground.
Yeah. And if you could tell him something right now, what would you say?
I'd say, don't be so hard on yourself. That learning is a process and it's okay to fail.
I'm blown away by you and your story. Thank you so much for sharing. I always love to end with this question.
Okay?
What do you want your legacy to be?
I would love for people to think about me and feel like I helped to elevate them into the life that they feel is a fulfilled and complete life. That I help them to realize something about themselves that they didn't necessarily know, that I guided them into being a better artist and human. And I think that if I'm thought of in that way, that's strong enough for me. And I feel like that's a life fulfilled.
Wow. Beautiful. Are you currently offering Zoom classes?
I'm not offering Zoom classes at the moment, but I do private coaching periodically in the off season when I'm not working on set. And so fingers crossed we get a season 2. The show gets released in a couple of weeks. I'm very excited, which is, oh, by the way, the show gets released. So my birthday is on February 1st and the show drops at midnight that night.
Oh my gosh.
So hopefully we get a season 2, and but until then, I do private coaching, here and there when I'm available, and I teach classes at Anthony Mindel.
So if someone watching this wanted to work with you, they could just reach out to you through your email or through Instagram to set up a coaching?
Yep.
Yeah.
For any artists out there who have made sacrifices, who have disappointed their families with their career path, just know that you don't have to be the most talented, you don't have to be the most connected, but if you work really hard and you put your heart behind it and you realize that failure is part of growth and you have a growth mentality when it comes to failure, and you get up and you keep doing it in spite of any kind of odds, and you look for other opportunities to grow, then you can be fulfilled in your artistic life, regardless of what other people say. So keep living the dream, you know, because I feel like from where I'm from and where I have arrived and also where I'm pushing to go, I just feel really lucky. And so I'm a cheerleader for anyone who's on that path.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.